Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Anatomy of Drawing a Comic Pinup. Today I will be showing you how I drew this, can you see it? This Swamp Thing illustration, and I think this is one of my rather better pieces, and I'm really proud and happy how it turned out. And I'm going to show you in this video how I used my brush pen in order to create these really nice textures, and how I had to go back into the drawing because I wasn't really happy with the final result, or some parts of the final result, but more of that in the video. I hope you guys are enjoying what I'm doing here. If you are interested to see more videos like these, then please subscribe to my channel. There's definitely going to be way more content in the future, and if you want to see more of my artwork in general, please go to my Instagram. It's @sedatözgen. And if you want to follow me on Facebook, it's @sedatözgenart. Thank you guys for tuning in, and now off to the video.
Okay, so now I am starting to sketch out Swamp Thing, and I can tell you one thing right away. This is going to be one of my absolute favorite drawings in this series of pinups. I was having a little bit of a rough time, starting with the drawing, and I was also a little bit worried about the fact that Swamp Thing is a very, 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 very organic looking character, since it's a monster in a swamp, and I wasn't sure if I was able to create the textures in the drawing or during the inks in such a way that it would look presentable. But I think the final result looks very good, I would say. I believe that these last three pinup videos that I made were very interesting, and I think they were some of my best artwork that I have done so far. And I'm really liking where this thing is going already, and it's moving into the right direction. I wasn't sure if I should keep him in this pose, but it felt like something that I was satisfied with, and I think that it was quite alright for the amount of time that I spent on the drawing, because it was about 2.5, no, I'm sorry, 2 hours, I think, 2 hours and 10 minutes or something like that. And I think that's more than good for such an elaborate piece, because I wasn't sure how long something like this would take me. Because, for example, on the trap jaw piece that I did, I made the character a little bit smaller, and thus would have to do less details. And the Wolverine piece was obviously done on a 9x12 and wasn't a full figure. And this piece here is done on 11x14 paper. But I really like how it has turned out, and you can see that I've already started inking this one with the brush pen again. For the one or two people that watch my videos, one of the followers on my YouTube told me that they would like to see me do more brush work, and I think that that's actually a good idea. I was thinking of it after the trap jaw piece, because I think it's really bringing out something in my art that I haven't expected. And it also goes to show you that once you get accustomed to doing something, you will improve, and you may even improve faster than you would have expected. For example, I was expecting to see quote unquote improvements in my work maybe after like 2 or 3 months, and it was almost ironic that I saw these improvements happening within a time frame of less than a month, because I think the Trapjaw piece, the Weapon X piece, and now this Swamp Thing piece are among some of my favorites. I mean, they aren't very elaborate in terms of design and concept and everything, but from a technical point of view, excuse me, from a technical point of view, they are definitely an achievement, and maybe even something that I would call a milestone, because for me it's these videos, they don't only just serve for you guys as a means of, I don't know, I don't like to say learning something, because who am I to teach you something, but um, maybe to extract something from it. I assume extracting something from this is a more appropriate way of defining it, or calling it whatever. And for me, it was about learning more about myself. And I know it sounds so ridiculous to say something like that, but um, what I learned here about myself and about my artistic abilities is that I can do way more with broader strokes, with brushes, and more organic looking lines than I uh, would be able to do with microns or fine liners, which is kind of ironic because I'm working with a micron on the piece at this very moment. But in general, to be less afraid of using something that I have less control over, because the fine liners and microns and my Molotov pens, they are absolutely amazing. They are great, but sometimes you will have too much control, and when you have too much control over something, you may end up stiffening up. You may end up doing things that you usually wouldn't do. And the cool thing with these brush pens, or by the way, I'm not being paid by anyone to tell you how great these brush pens are. Unfortunately, I'm not. I should call the people from these companies and ask them to send me a huge check because I am talking so much about them. But um, no, it's because they are so organic, because they are so broad and less controllable than a fine liner. I am making more of these so-called happy accidents, or I'm having more of those happy accidents, and those probably wouldn't happen with a fine liner, because the fine liner allows you way more control and everything can be more precise and everything. And that's not the case with these brush pens. With these brush pens, you're basically, what I'm doing is usually that I start spotting some of the black areas, and then from there on go and try to figure out where I can add some of the rendering and some of the um, details and all that stuff. And this is what I'm basically doing, and you will see that I am, especially on his arm. I feel like that the arm of a Swamp Thing in this piece was like working with clay. When you're working with clay, you're basically, when you want to create a sculpture or anything like that, you start doing something and you go bit by bit fleshing it out. You go first and have the structure of the arm, and from the structure you go to adding a few details, and then you go to the muscles, and then when you're done with the muscles you maybe go will be going over to the details of the muscles, and where you can see I don't know, more muscles, or maybe some veins, or whatever you want to show on this arm. And this is kind of similar with this arm, because as you can see, I have way more sort of feathered lines or cross hatching there, and then I have some indications of texture. And the more I work on this piece, the more I realize that it is not working in favor of what I'm trying to um, show here, and therefore I am flashing it out with every further step on this piece. And I think it's coming along, and I'm using obviously not just the brush pens but also fine liners and um, feud pens and whatever. It doesn't matter which tools you are using. The most important thing here is that it's working. And for example, now I am using a calligraphy pen in order to give the outlines a little bit more of line weight and a little bit more vividness and all that stuff. And this is basically what you do. You start with something, and then you look at it with a little bit more fresh eyes, and then you go and fix something. It's a little bit of a forth and back, and by the end of the video you will see that I wasn't happy with um, some parts of the piece, and I went in there with a whiteout correction pen and fixed some things, or highlighted other things, in order to make it work in favor of the all-around picture. Because what you have to remember is that you don't just want to have one certain area that looks really cool and really works as a technical or artistic achievement for you, but you want to have the whole drawing itself work for you as an artist, as an achievement, as a milestone, where you think, okay, this looks better than most of the other stuff that I have done over the past few weeks or past few months or past few years. And something like that should happen at least every 2 or 3 months. You should be looking at your work and think to yourself, or realize, hey, this is an improvement. This is clearly something that is better than anything that I have done before. And I don't want to put any pressure on anyone, but I think if you're not experiencing that, then you may be doing something wrong. And I think we all know that we at some point grow. It is absolutely all right to be unhappy with your work sometimes, because when you're unhappy, you're going to be working harder, and you're going to be doing more in order to make your artwork work. But if you're at some point not seeing development or improvement or growth, then you may be either too critical of your own work, or you are doing something wrong. And it's either one of those two, and which one it is, I'll leave up to you. But I think, looking at my own work, and you have to know this, I'm very critical of my own stuff. I sometimes just want to tear it apart and throw it all away. and in other occasions I'm quite happy with the way some of my artwork turns out. It's really always a matter of how much I can make this piece work. It's sometimes it's quite hard to verbalize your thoughts, but I think everyone knows what I'm talking about when they are an artist, and yeah, and I think still, if you look at this picture, it's still not working the way that it's going to be working in the final um, version, because at this moment Swamp Thing is just standing there and the background isn't fully flashed out yet, and you can only see bits and pieces that work, but with every stroke, with every line, this drawing, this illustration comes more to life, and I like where it's going. I'm very pleased by the end with how it turned out, and yeah, I think it's one of those pieces where I can proudly say, "Hey, I have improved," and it's because of this of these videos. And now I'm erasing the pencil lines, and unfortunately, I you know smeared some of the inks on a place that's supposed to be white, which bothers me a little bit. Um, I have left the background um, in terms of the trees that are behind Swamp Thing completely in white. It's a white silhouette, and I think white silhouettes can work very nicely too. And now I am adding some white outlines into the background and into Swamp Thing itself. As you can see, I put some white lines into his or under his chin that are going to be roots. Um, it's not only going to be the white out lines that will be in there. I will go and draw some black lines in there too, simply because sometimes you have to correct some lines and then draw over the correction again in order to make it work. And I am now preparing it to get some ink sprayed on it using a toothbrush, with which I am spraying onto Swamp Thing, and that's basically to create even more texture, because he's supposed to be looking like a monster that lives in a swamp, and it should look very much like, I don't know, grass, leaves, whatever. And I am now adding some white ink onto the drawing, spraying some, and now I'm putting it onto his face. It may be warm breath coming out of his mouth, and just adding some finger prints onto the arm and the face and other places in order to give the whole thing a little bit more texture. And this was supposed to be finished now, but it wasn't. I went in there and fixed some more stuff with the whiteout pen, and I think that it was an improvement, and I'm glad I did it. And since we are heading towards the end of the video, I would really appreciate if you guys would subscribe to my channel, like, comment, and maybe even share my video. And if you want to see more of my work in progress stuff, please also come over to my Instagram. It's at @sedatözgen. You can find all the social media infos in the description, and my Facebook is at @sedatözgenart. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm glad I made this video because it's really a great improvement, and once again, you guys helped me basically become a better artist, which I appreciate as well. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. What are some of the things that you are struggling with? See you soon. Thank you very much, and bye bye.